Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie, and today I have time for a really quick video on planting the seedlings that I started. Now I'm out in my garden. What I'm going to be planting is cabbage, kohlrabi, and some onions, and maybe a little bit of kale. So let me show you what my seedlings look like right now. They've actually been in my plant room way too long. I should have been able to plant them, but the only days I have to plant are on Saturdays. And the last several Saturdays have been really snowy and cold and windy. So today is finally a sunny day, so I am going to be able to plant these. Let me show you what they look like. So here I have my cold frame. It did have cabbage and kohlrabi and some kale that I overwintered, but they didn't turn out very good. I think this needed another layer. Maybe if I left them a little bit longer, they would be better. But here's what I harvested. This is definitely a usable cabbage. It's still a little small, but I think that'll be good. Sorry for the shadow. This is one of my kohlrabis. It should still be edible and good. It's just not as big as the last ones I grew. And then there's a couple of more right there. We also have my onion, my bunching onion that's left over. My lettuce finally has sprouted. Let me get my shadow out of the way here. The purple kale did beautifully, and so did this one curly kale. So what I have to plant is a huge amount of cabbage. It did really well. I have some kohlrabi that doesn't look as good. I had problem with blight in it as seedlings. But they seem to be trying to pull out of it, so I may plant the ones that are looking good. We have some onions that I'm going to plant in a different bed, chard that are going to go in a different bed. Tons more cabbage, and some kale. The kale will go in a third bed. Now I have some appointments I've got to go to today, so I'm going to just do this very quickly. I've made other videos on how to plant. What I've done is I've amended my bed with compost, vermiculite, and peat, and added some fertilizer. So now all I need to do is just plant. First one we're going to do is this gorgeous looking cabbage. Let's look and see what the roots look like. Oh, and it's not root bound at all, so this should do really well. So I think this bed is going to be mostly cabbage and kohlrabi, like I said, and I'll do the onions and the kale in other beds. So let's get started. Okay, so here we go. It's a little bit of a haphazard planting, but we're going to have our kale and our chard in here. We have some garlic that survived from the previous year that I didn't quite harvest the whole thing. And then look at this. This is my red Russian kale, right here. The red Russian kale that I planted last year. It died to the ground, and now it's starting to come back, and that's not the only place it's coming back. If you can see in this area, we've got a lot of new growth coming from this red Russian kale. So we're going to have that too here. Last of all, this was some chard. And you can see new growth coming out of there. We'll see how well that does. Now all we have left is the onions. Let's go show you where we're going to plant those. Now this bed right here, pardon my shadow, used to be my herb bed. I pulled out all but 2 of the chives. We still have possibly an artichoke in here. We'll see if that ends up coming up. Actually, if it comes up, I think I'm going to dig it out and put it someplace else. It did not fruit last year, and you know, I'm going to be putting in my new food forest down here, and I may put some artichokes down there. So let's get these onions planted because I have an appointment to get to. Now these are the onions I grew by seed. This is the first time I've successfully grown them by seed. Let me show you how you pull them apart. There's a lot of them in there. This one did not germinate as much, but let's pull them out and show you. Carefully pull it out, and then you tease the whole thing apart. And what you'll find is little tiny onion plants that you can just gently pull out and tease apart. Now these will grow into full onions. So the varieties that I have got mixed up, in a mishap in this, when I was planting seeds. So I don't know exactly what they're going to be right now, other than I know that I have the white Spanish sweet, the yellow Spanish sweet, and some Walla Walla. So let's plant these and see what they look like. I'm going to dig a bit of a trench. And I'm not going to bury them very deep. They're just going to go up to about where the white part is. They're really tender right now, so I don't want to bury the green part, so we'll just be careful of that. And I'm leaving room between each onion so that they can get to size. Now, they don't have to be really far apart, but I put them about 4 or 5 inches apart. Now I'll give you just a quick shot of what else I've planted. I planted my garlic last fall. Looks like all of them have come up, and they're looking great. Nothing is planted in this bed yet. I'm still deciding what to plant in there. And then I planted peas in this bed, but it got trampled when we did the fruit tree pruning, so we'll see what comes up. Plus it got a little dry. There's one little baby poking his head up here, and I'm not seeing any growth on it yet. So we'll just stick him back down in there. So I'm hoping we'll get some peas. Here's another one that needs to be poked down. Yeah, I'm hoping we get some peas. We'll see what happens. The last place I wanted to show you is my strawberry bed. Now, I did not have time to film this one, but I had some bare root strawberries show up, planted them in here. It was late one night after work. It was actually dark and I had to do it with flashlight. But you can see we're already starting to get a few shoots come up. These are Fort Laramie strawberries, and it filled about half of the bed, so I think I'll fill the other half of the bed with a June-bearing strawberry. The Fort Laramie are ever-bearing. So thank you for coming with me on this garden adventure. Sorry it was so quick, but I'm just so excited for spring, I couldn't wait. And the rest of this week I really don't have enough time to do any more planting other than the rest of the onions. I'll probably be out here with a headlamp doing the rest of those onions tomorrow night. But I appreciate you being here. I'd love to hear what you're planting this time of year and what your plans are for this year. And I hope you go have a wonderful garden adventure.